All right, welcome back. Episode 2 of the Four Insight podcast. I'm Mike Obi.
Nick Washington.
All right, welcome back. Nick, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. A little tired, but it's all good.
Yeah, same. Long day outside in the sun, turning the boy crispy, so I feel you. But we have a hell of a show in store for y'all today. So, one of the main topics of conversation between Nick and myself has been the changing of how education has been valued between us. Nick and myself, we're part of the whole cusp of millennials versus Gen Zs, and so um, we're big. Social media has been a big influence as well as technology and everything. And we've kind of had our different paths and our different opinions of, formal education, schooling, what we learn in school. And so we're just gonna get into that today. Um, the first thing we're going to talk about the idea of college, right? So I'm a person. I just finished my undergrad degree in public health, and Nick, you can get into it yourself. But how we even met and how we even got started is just through. I was talking about my experience in school and how the system itself I felt was imperfect, and for Nick, he kind of had his own opinions, and so I'm gonna let Nick go ahead and get into it. So, Nick, you were a person who was not who decided to take some time off from school for some time, and why was that, and what was it that you saw or didn't see with the whole college system?
um, I mean, going from being in both environments of a university and a community college, um, in both environments, I just really didn't see like the value in it. Um, so that's what kind of led me to take that time off. Uh, is because I felt like I was learning more outside of class, doing different things outside of class or teaching myself different things than I was wasting my time in class. So I was just like, I don't see the value in it. Um, and so I just decided to take time off. I really didn't plan on going back to school at all at the time when I made the decision. And then, after looking at it and assessing the situation, unfortunately, I realized that for some of us, um, it's better off that you have to have a degree because you just kind of aren't even entertained or respected in some circles if you don't have a degree. So I made the decision to go back to school just because of that reason only. Like, really, if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be in school. You know?
No, I mean, for me, what I saw is just the people don't really look at even what you learn in college anymore, and I think that's really where the disconnect is starting to happen. Like, it's more so about what grade you make on your transcript. It's not what you learned during the course. For me, I remember going through JUCO, and I took one class in calculus, right? And in that class, our teacher was very big on understanding the fundamentals and understanding the steps, right? And she was a very tough grader. Everything was open ended, and so from that, our test scores compared to the other calculus classes, first off, were way lower. But then, if you were to give us problems,
Mhm.
our class could solve it better than the other class because they were very into just implementing a formula sheet and just following those steps. And so then, whenever you gave them problems and you couldn't have that sort of crutch therefore they weren't able to fulfill they weren't able to do the problems. And so that was one of the first signs where I was like, is it really about the learning or is it about the grades? And I think as you get older and you start applying to get into schools, I mean, they're looking at, okay, what is your GPA, what are your scores, what are your tests? This society and American school system is very big on, okay, what are your scores looking like, what is your GPA? But then when they try to assess, what do you learn, I mean, a lot of times they don't really even talk about that. Some do, as far as the interview process. That's when you really get a gauge for um, what they value, what that school values. But then a lot of times that even in itself is subjective, and I think that's a part of the system that we could look into improving, because we want everybody to get an education. Me and you are both people who I feel like we feel like educating yourself is important, It's just the system that we're thrusted in. Um, we feel like is very flawed, and we're trying to bring attention to that fact.
Yeah, I definitely think that the education system in America has a lot of flaws. Um, and that's why I say I wouldn't be in school is because of those flaws. If those flaws were corrected, then I might be. I would not might be because I am, but I would be more like accepting or willing to be in school because I know that those flaws were corrected. But as of right now, you know, it's flawed. I mean, just in short, like you said, it's flawed. And then, like you said, with the whole jobs thing and everything, yeah, they do. Especially like when you're coming straight out of college, they want to know your GPA. Um, they want to know about certain classes that you took. If it apply like whatever class applies for the job that you're applying for. Um, but I feel like once you get past that first job or two, they don't really care. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying. Your track record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So that's why I was kind of like, I don't really think that the value in school is there because I'd rather just go out there and build a record for myself and have all these recommendations so that if I go apply for this job, you know what I'm saying, I might have gone to college, but look, I have X, Y, and Z who will give you who will give recommendations of my work, and then I have a portfolio of my own work that I can show you, rather than somebody who comes out of school doesn't have any recommendations besides teachers. You know what I'm saying? The teachers can only get you so far because it's like that's classwork. Classwork and work that you're actually be doing in your real job in most cases is actually pretty different. And the thing is like most people don't even learn or remember shit from school. You know what I'm saying? Like the stuff that they end up learning and remembering is stuff that they learned on the job. You know what I mean? People still learn new things every day on the job, no matter how long you've been there. So that's why to me it's flawed. I think that you shouldn't be having trying to bring kids in to do um, internships their senior, some maybe junior year, but senior year for sure. I think that that should be a thing from freshman year. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that people need to be out and experiencing different fields and different works in that field that they think they want to work in. So you don't go get your degree in fucking I don't know. You don't get your degree in law.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, now you can go through school and you become a lawyer, and you're like, I don't even like this. You
Right.
know, and it's like, well, you didn't waste all that money, so you kind of got to be a lawyer. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to waste all your money. But if you would have known back in your freshman year, if you did an internship at a law firm, you'd be like, oh, well, maybe I don't really like this, and you have time to change your degree before you get out into the field. You know what I mean? So that's where one of the flaws I believe is.
Yeah, and also, looking at the system itself, it's also I feel like a lack of well-roundedness. The the process of getting through the school system is very robotic from the standpoint you go to school, you get there, you take a certain amount of daily work assignments, you complete those, and then you get some homework, you complete that, you then prepare every couple weeks to take a test or take an exam, you do the exam, and a lot of it is you're just compartmentalizing that time, that information for that period of time. Then you take the test, and as soon as you take the test, that is out of your brain, and you're on to the next thing. And so it's just a cycle. And it's really, in my opinion, what I thought was high school, especially high school and college, really just trains you how to be a worker. It doesn't teach you how to think for yourself. It doesn't teach you real values. It doesn't teach you how to, be an entrepreneur or even to think outside of the box. And so as a result, you have these very rigid students and these very rigid thinkers and these people who only are able to see things one way. And then I think what happens a lot of times too is that there are people, and especially now more than ever, who are deciding not to go to college or even drop out of high school, because it's like this isn't fitting me. It's like fitting a square peg in a round box. Like, well, I don't think like that. And also, I have different things going on. Like, not every person who drops out of school is just because they're lazy or they don't want to do it. I hear that a lot. Oh, you millennials or oh, you Gen Zs are lazy. Y'all don't want to work for nothing. Y'all don't want to try your best. You don't want to do anything. It's not always the case, in my opinion. For me, I feel like everybody has a different set of circumstances. right? There are some people who coming from impoverished backgrounds, right? Me going to work and bringing money home for my family to feed, for some young people, that's a reality. So what do I really value more? Do I value making sure that I'm able to eat, my family's able to eat, my mom, my siblings, because a lot of times these are kids who also come from single parent households. Do I value that, or um do I value going to school and learning some stuff that I really don't want to learn, right? What weighs more? Well, a lot of people are thinking, I'd rather go get the work, I'd rather go get the money, even though it's a little bit misled because there's not always that much money in that field. I mean, if you don't have a degree, your salary per capita is much lower than a person who generally doesn't have a degree if you're not into having your own business or entrepreneurship. So people are also misinformed, and I think that's the part where upbringing and education really has to play a part of like letting people understand, look, if you have this background, if you have this resume, if you have this experience, you are automatically earning more money because now you can bring that to a job, bring that to a profession and say, listen, this is my credentials, this is what I have, this is what I don't have. And that goes into the point that you brought up about, you know, why we have to go back to college. It's not about I want to learn more, even though, I mean, for some people it is, but it's more so about that piece of paper now validates my resume more than if I just had a bachelor's degree. They'll look at that and say, he's had even more experience at being a worker and following the system. And I think if we can get it to a point where school is more just more fittable for more different types of people, more types of thinkers, it'd be much better. We bring these topics up not to be the millennials who complain, or the generation who is just complaining about everything, but like we have real concerns and we're just trying to bring it to the forefront, like say, listen, this is what is good, this is what is bad, and this is where we think we can improve it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely agree. And that's why if you're not at a program like really Harvard or Stanford, then it's kind of a waste of time because only like those two schools are the only schools that I know of that kind of take a different approach to students. Most other schools, U of H and all that, try to make the way they approach learning or teaching and learning as a one size fits all type of thing. Not everybody learns the same, so that's where the problem I think is that you can't, just because one way works with some certain group of people doesn't mean that it works with another, and you have to kind of update your teaching, update your teachers, your teaching philosophies and all that, because if you taking the same approach to doing something that you were back in 1970
Mm-hmm.
2020, like it's obviously
You're
not
too late. You're 50 years too late.
you have to be able to progress, and if you don't progress, then I think the value on that education from that specific institution is going to kind of decrease.
Yeah, it's outdated. And I mean, the thing is also, let's be real, we're a product of social media. What does that mean? That means that first off, people have way shorter attention spans now more than ever because everything is at a click of a button. Everything is so accessible like this. So, I mean, the way that people are able to get information nowadays is way faster than it was back in even the 90s. In the 90s, you had to go get a book, you had to go look it up, or you had to go through an internet process that wasn't nearly as fast. It wasn't on your phone. You actually had to go find a computer and you had to go find the information and you had to actually sit down and seek it out. Now, I can get whatever you were looking for that took you 20 minutes, I can get it in 2 minutes, right? So it's like people really see it and they're like, what are they teaching me now that I can't go find on my phone, right? And how is this more beneficial? Now, the good thing about school is just learning personal skills and being able to interact and being able to fall in line if that's what you're trying to get into. If you're a person who is trying to work, being able to take structure, being able to take order, take discipline, those types of things, those are values that you'll learn in school. So that's a good thing. When I was going through my undergrad, I was looking at it and I really had to sit down with myself and say, what am I doing? Like, what is it that I'm learning in school? 'Cause I didn't want to be a person where it's just like, man, school is some bullshit. Why am I being forced? I'm like, really tried to get it. And I was like, well, if anything, you learn how to follow a plan, you learn how to stay disciplined, you learn how to keep up with a schedule, especially if you live on campus. Because on campus, you don't got your mom, you don't got your dad there to tell you what to do. You have to do it on your own. They don't care nothing about whether you come to class or not. You have to you have to do your own laundry, you have to seek out your own food, buy your own food if you live on an apartment. So in terms of helping you grow up and mature, that's where college has done a great job for people.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual in class setting, it can be much improved, and it's making some strides in certain areas. See, for me, what happened was I was initially in NSM. I was a bio major, and one thing I found was those teachers a lot of times were like teach yourself, do it yourself. They had that type of mindset. And I was, asking my peers, and I'm interacting with my peers, and I'm like, I mean, we're all like, dude, like, what are we paying our money for if you're not willing to teach us anything? And that's kind of the mental. It's like, okay, we're all, ooh, go teach yourself, teach yourself, teach yourself, find it out, go seek it out. If you care, you'll do it. Well, if I care and I want to do it, why am I paying you all this money? Why am I paying this institution all this money just to get a piece of paper? Okay, I don't need it. And so there's that aspect of it all. When I switched my major to public health, much different experience. Very, all right, listen, we're all going to come together, we're going to congregate, and we're going to try to, have discussions and have real interactions, and we're going to try to see different people's perspectives. And I had much different experience, much more learning in those 2 years being in that field, because it was about taking the knowledge that we had at our disposal and how we're going to implement it. That's what public health is largely about. Okay, we have an issue, we have a problem, now how are we going to fix the problem?
Yeah.
And it takes different minds coming together and being able to solve it. And so for me, that way of teaching, I think, can be implemented in any field, in any area of study.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's why I think that for people, engineering, mathematics should be kind of a base in almost every degree. Is because those are the two type of things that teach you how to, analyze certain information and, draw a conclusion from it. And it teaches you how to build something or correct a system. You know what I'm saying? And if you can't learn to do that, you know what I'm saying, then if you call yourself wanting to be an entrepreneur or a whatever, you're gonna have to learn how to change systems. Maybe not specific like actual systems, but you're gonna have to learn how to analyze certain trends or whatever the case may be, and see how you can make it more efficient.
Mm.
Because that's really this world is coming down to, is making things more efficient. So you're not bringing anything to the table on, hey, well, I think that blah 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 blah, and you do this, you can make it more efficient. In whatever field that you want to be in, anywhere from public health, like you said, to fucking, I don't know, rocket science or construction or something. You know what I'm saying? Every single industry, if you're gonna be a person that wants to be like a pioneer in the industry or to be a leader in the industry, you're gonna have to know how to analyze the data in your specific industry, and then figure out a way to cut inefficiencies or to make things better. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Because I believe, I don't know, I can't tell you if this is true or not, but either you have to kind of take a certain thing, take a certain industry or a certain system and figure out a way to make it better,
Mm.
or you have to bring something new. That's the two ways you're gonna really make money. You either come up with a new business that nobody's ever heard of, or you take a business that's already existing but figure out a way to make it run more efficiently. You
And that's,
can't just copy the same thing and then think that you're gonna make. I can't go outside. I can't go out tomorrow and say I'm gonna open a company just like Amazon and I'm gonna make the same as Jeff Bezos. You're not. That's just not gonna happen.
it's like,
You know. So you have to figure out a way to either make Amazon better or come up with a whole different business. You know what I mean? So
mm.
that's my take on it. But
No, and I agree, because okay, so my dad, right, grew up in Africa. He grew up in Cameroon, And he talks to me all the time about his educational background, very intense. And like how you were alluding to earlier, they had a foundation of mathematics in every class that they had. So the way they did it there was it was an all boys private school, and you had to learn science, math, like science, math, history, philosophy, all those things every year. It was the same thing. You just were adding on to it, and you were applying more perspective and more critical thinking the farther you got along. So by the time you were finished, you not only had the information at your disposal, you also knew how to apply it. That application piece that we're talking about today is what I think is missing in school. It's just like, okay, listen, come here, 1 plus 1 equals 2. But how does two enable us to have a more efficient system? It's just like, okay, I know that information. How am I able to apply it? People don't understand that, and like that's how you get a lot of young people thinking like, okay, how is this benefiting my life? They don't know that it does, but they don't see it yet. And so because they don't see it, it's very, I don't think that this is really beneficial to me at all, right? And I think one thing with these upcoming generations is the creativity aspect of it all. I think that that trait is very prevalent amongst young generations. So I think if we just were able to exploit that and say, listen, we have a generation of kids and young adults who are very forward thinking, very open minded, more so than previous generations just because of the diversity. Let's let them exploit their craft and their talent. And we can, first off, explode as far as the entertainment industry. I mean, because that's really where America makes a lot of its revenues through entertainment as well as inventions, right? And so if we just hone in on that, I think we could, regain the power that we once had. Because depending on who you are, I mean, I think that the educational components, a lot of people don't like a lot of countries I don't think respect as much about America as they once did. And I think it's because uh, first off, kids aren't taking education seriously. That's one thing. And then coupled with um, it's been watered down. The system has been watered down because there's been a lack of innovation and a lack of progress and a lack of change, right? And so because of that, you're using 1970s tactics, as you said, in 2020 brains. It's not going to work. It's not going to be nearly good enough. And as a result, a lot of kids with a lot of potential, first off, are going to be lost in the shuffle of it all. And make education more affordable. I mean, that to me is absurd. The amount of how much college costs. I mean, it's really a business. And like, see, we say stuff like that, or I hear stuff like that, and people are like, "Well, if you don't like it, then don't go to college." That's a very closed-minded way to think, in my opinion. I'm like, no, why don't you listen and see that? Okay, for this kid who comes from this middle-class background, and you're making them pay tens to $20,000 worth of student loans, they're not going to understand that yet it's an investment in yourself and in your future. They see it as I'm accumulating $20,000 worth of loan, 20, 30, 40 if you're going to a really good school. So naturally, people are going to start being like, do I want to really invest in my future that badly? Or, am I going to decide, let me get this short term money? Now, again, like we've established, the short term money has no long, it's very short term. I mean, it's not going to enable you the lifestyle you want. You have to be able to say, if I want a 10-star lifestyle, I can't have a 5-star approach, you know. And I think people have to really be educated on, if you want a certain life, if you want a certain living, you have to put in the work, which means being educated. But then on the other side, the people who are educating us, the people who are providing the knowledge, have to do a better job, in my opinion, or at least put more thought into how they're providing the knowledge.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree because when people say, "Oh, if you want to be successful, all you gotta do is work hard," you do have to work hard, but working hard isn't enough.
No.
Um, Work hard till you're 80 and still only make X amount a year. You know what I'm saying? Like just because you work hard, it just shows that you're a hard worker, but that's not gonna make you successful
Mm.
unless you're working smarter. Because if you over here banging nail and a hammer trying to chip off some brick or something when we have a whole machine for that, you know what I'm saying? You can be a lot more efficient with the machine than you will be sitting there doing like this all day long. You're working hard doing like this, but we've, progressed in now we have machines to do things. So why not take advantage of things, tools that we have to kind of help you work better, you know what I mean? So if you're just working hard, it's not going to be enough. Period. You have to work smarter. And then my thing is that a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs. Everybody wants to be a, entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be a influencer. Everybody wants to be a, whatever. And that's great, but let's be honest. You know what I mean? Like, just everybody's not going to make it in the NFL. Everybody's not going to make it in the NBA. Everybody's not going to make it in MLB. So you have to be okay with. There's nothing wrong with being an employee, and I think there's starting to become this stigmatism, especially for millennials and Gen Z and all that. Is that, oh, I don't want to be an employee. I don't want to work for somebody. But everybody can't be an entrepreneur. Think about if everybody was an entrepreneur, how would America run? You know what I mean?
Wouldn't.
It wouldn't. So you have to be an employee. There's people out there that are meant to be employees, and you can make really good money being an employee. That's what people forget. Everybody's not going to be the CEO. Everybody's not going to be the COO or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But it's about how you allocate your money. You can make $40,000 a year from your job, but then in tied with other investments and other assets you have, you can be making 150, 200 plus. But it's all about how you use your money, and that's where people kind of get tied up. Is they want the short term. Oh, I have my $40,000, so let me go. I'm barely making rent at my apartment, but let me go buy a BMW. Let me go buy a Mercedes. You know what I'm saying? Or even if they start to make those investments and they're making, let's just say, making $100,000 a year. Okay, let me go buy a Lamborghini to show everybody I can buy a Lamborghini. It's like, oh, that's cool. I want a Lamborghini. That's cool, but I wouldn't be buying a Lamborghini making $150,000, even $200,000 a year. I would not buy a Lamborghini because for what? You know what I mean? Like, I would want to progress. You know what I'm saying? Uh, it's just the generation that we are. Everybody wants to shine, but a lot of people don't want to put in the work, or if they do put in the work, they go for that short-term temporary clout, I guess you want to say,
Yeah. And
rather than long-term stability. You know what I mean?
yeah. And as far as, the what you brought up a good point as far as people being smart with their money and really being able to place their assets. What I will say is that it does take, again, both sides have to take accountability. I think that's the thing. Both sides are saying, nope, it's on, the millennials like ourselves and Gen Zs are saying, okay, it's on the system. And that's what we're bringing their attention because that's what we see. And then the system is saying, nope, it's on the workforce, it's on the kids to go out and seek the information. So bottom line, nobody's taking accountability for anything, and then we're just left with this sort of Cold War like standstill where you cave in, you cave in. What I will say, one of the most profound lessons I ever learned in life, right, was when I was in sixth grade. I was 12 years old. My math teacher, Ms. Heimbach, had the class actually fill out. It was an assignment where basically you were simulating being a person who had a job fresh out of college, right? You're not living with your parents, so now you have to go through a month of working 40-hour weeks and accumulating a salary, and then through that salary you had to then use that for what adults pay for: your car, your housing, your food, water bills, all those things that we do now as adults. Our teacher made us simulate that, and what you found is like, all right, listen, for a person who, let's say works a regular 9 to 5 job, and at the end of the month has to pay car, has to pay food, water, housing, is left with X amount of dollars, right? That X amount of dollars can be used to be saved, or it can be used to be spent on a car. And I think that lesson in itself is what we need more. Is like, listen, if you're going to be an adult, this is what you need to learn about. This is what is going to entail you being an adult. I think, if we have more of those conversations in school, first off, kids will feel like, okay, I'm learning how to actually grow up. I'm actually learning things that'll translate in life. I had that conversation with my mom today, you know. Um, but if it's just learn A plus B equals C, and that's just it, and do that for a test and do that for piece of paper, you know, the value of education is going to greatly diminish. But like you said, there's nothing, also that there's nothing wrong with having a job and working and attaining a salary and attaining a living. Not at all. I
Mhm.
think for those people at the bottom who, you know, their way of living or their way of living isn't enough, okay, you have to figure out how you're going to level up. You can't say, well, it ain't enough. They got to do something for me. Nah, I have to do something for myself. You have to take self accountability and say, I don't like where I'm living or I don't like my situation. Let me do something better. If that means you got to go back to school, do it. You have to see the end goal and you have to see the big picture, right? If that takes you, putting down the socializing or putting down, oh, I want this car, but let me wait because I can't afford that. You have to actually have the discipline to do that. But don't have the discipline to do that, and that's the one thing I think we as a young generation can improve on. That those things that we think we need, we don't need yet. You know what I'm saying? I had to learn that. I had to learn that lesson. My dad sat me down and he kind of walked me through it, and he was like, "Listen, you can do this, this, and this, and you can make this amount of money, or you can save for this, save for that, and then you can have this left over. This that you have left over can now enable you to invest in a new, car, or it can be used for whenever you are living in a better place than you're living in now. And you can buy a better house. You can live in a better place. You can live in a safe place. So those are definitely the lessons that I think we have to get to talking about. And it takes everybody taking accountability for oneself. The
Yeah.
system has to improve, and we as youngins have to improve on our outlook and our sort of worldview. I think if we do that, the future will be brighter.
No, yeah, I definitely agree that, and that's why I feel like internships in school, like good internships, one
Mm,
in schools have to be a thing from the beginning, from year one, is because now I can take what I'm learning in, you know, my public administration class or my business class or my accounting class, whatever, and
mhm,
put it in my internship. And then if there's questions that I have, I can ask people who are in the industry, you know what I'm saying? And then you kind of learn what's really valuable for that career.
mm,
And you're gonna actually, when you go to class, you're gonna actually be more entailed to pay attention and learn something because you want to be able to take whatever you learn, and then when you're able to go to your internship, you want to try to apply that. But if you're saying, oh well, you can't get an internship until your junior or senior year, I'm not gonna remember stuff from freshman year. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why this whole school system needs to be um, altered and needs to be improved. Um, People have to take the steps to educate themselves.
mm.
You can't rely on other people to look out for you. Um, you would like for people to look out for you, but you can't think that everybody's going to have your best interests in mind because they're not. You have to be accountable for yourself. The school has to be accountable for themselves. Your job has to be accountable for itself. So everybody has to be their own responsibilities. And it is what it is. And some people don't get educated, especially minorities don't get educated on the proper way to use and allocate money.
Absolutely.
It's something that's not really talked about, or if it is, it's talked about in the wrong way. You get your parents telling you, "Oh, well, you got you some money. You need to go buy a car. You need to go buy some clothes. You need to go buy some new, whatever the hype clothes are, the hype shoes." It's like, no, that's not. It's cool. Like all this stuff is cool. I'm not trying to downplay it, but you should be able to make sure that you're taking care of yourself first before you want to go buy that. Make sure that you got money in your pocket. You have an emergency fund, you
Mm,
know, before you want to go and buy a house, before you want to go buy some clothes, before you want to go buy that car. Make sure make sure that you're still able to live your lifestyle if tomorrow, or like that's what I'm saying, this whole coronavirus, people lost their jobs. Not a lot of people are having to get rid of cars, get rid of their house, get
mm,
rid of clothes, even because they can't afford to live the lifestyle that they were living because properly they didn't take the proper steps. You know what I'm saying? They
mm,
didn't save X amount of money because They know that one day something can happen and I can lose my job. They thinking everybody thinks that, oh, I'm gonna keep getting this paycheck. I'm gonna keep getting this, and then something like this happens. It rarely happens. It happens, every whatever 20 years, every 40 years, whatever. It happens. It's gonna happen. This is not gonna be the only pandemic in our lifetime,
Right.
unfortunately. But hopefully people are learning from this. But there's gonna be a lot of people that aren't. And so that's why the people who are trying to take this as a learning step is remembering what happened. You know what I'm saying? Remembering what's happening right now. If you're a person that lost your job, remembering what I had to give up, what, situation me losing my job put myself into. So that when it does happen later on in your life, you'll be good. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about it. So, but a lot of people just have short-term memories. Like you said, our attention span is getting shorter. Our memory is getting shorter because we can just, our phones or our computer is going to remember everything for us. You know what I'm saying? If you ask, I can go to my little cousin and ask me to tell me their mom's phone number, and they probably can't. You know what I mean?
That's crazy. That in itself right there is crazy. Like there you used to take pride in being able to remember people's numbers by heart. Now it's just a thing in my phone. If I need it, I just go call it. Like if I need to talk to Nick, oh, it's just call Nick. Boom. I said I ain't even gotta remember people's phone numbers. Like that in itself. And also people's patience is shorter than ever. So I mean, naturally you would want to say, well, we need more jobs that, require manpower, but then if you use manpower versus machine, manpower is way slower. So you have to now think of it. In the end, what I say is everybody's a CEO of their own life. You have to manage your life. You have to take pride in it. You have to maneuver it in a way that you can create something for yourself where you can always have something to eat, a place to live, and water to drink, water to use. If you don't have those means, you have to try to go out and seek them. Now, for those people who don't want to, do that at all times and don't want to evolve, they get stuck in the situation that they are in now, which is that they're struggling. There's some people who are just saying, shit, coronavirus, it is what it is. I just got to quarantine until this stuff blows over. The other people saying, nope, I'd rather go out and risk it. Their choice, but I'd rather go out and risk it because I need this money. And,
Yep.
and that's unfortunate. Um, but it, it's there's flaws in everything, and there's a lot of room to improve, and that's what we're here to just bring to the attention. We're trying to foresee events based off of our insight and based off of our knowledge. Um, but you know what? That's a wrap for us today. My boy Nick, great content, bro. Great episode, man. Really informative. I learned, and I think everybody else will too. But that's a wrap for us. Catch us on YouTube, Spotify, and all other platforms streaming podcasts.